Welcome to today's episode of the Green Industry Podcast. We're going to talk about the top 10 financial mistakes that lawn care business owners make. And I've made all 10 of these mistakes. So if you are making these mistakes, I've been there too, but we're going to talk about how to avoid them. So let's dive right into it. By the way, I'm in my new studio for those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube. So I'll make it more fancy in the days to come, but we are set up here in a new location. All right, top 10 financial mistakes that lawn care business owners make. Number one is not knowing your numbers. And so if somebody asks you, how much revenue did you do last year or even last month? How much was your profit? How much, did your business make? Like how much did you came in, how much went out, and how much did your business make? Those are numbers that we should know and we should learn. And so how I've avoided the mistake of not knowing my numbers is I hired a bookkeeper and I meet with them once a month and we talk about my profit and loss statement, my statement of cash flows, my balance sheet. We really dive into those numbers. And then I also have a budget consultant, Layla, who helps me with a personal budget so that not knowing my numbers is not even an option anymore. I'm going to know my numbers. We're going to talk more about that in this podcast, but that's number one mistake that most lawn care business owners make, and I used to make, was not knowing my numbers. So we'll talk more about what that actually looks like to know our numbers as we progress. But number two financial mistake lawn care business owners make, and please let me know in the comments if the audio is going good, if it sounds like it's picking up this good microphone right here, if it sounds like it's picking up my computer microphone, which would sound echoing and raggedy. I'd appreciate if you could let me know in the comments because it's my first podcast in a new setup. Number two mistake out of 10 is underpricing services. When you get started out, you don't have confidence that you understand the market in general, what other folks are charging, and you feel this I don't want to say desperation, but you want to get the job, right? You don't want to send a quote and then not say yes. So you just kind of lower your price just a little bit just so you have the confidence that you get it. And that's a detrimental mistake that I used to make. And as I've understood, I don't want to just say my worth, but the market, if you will. What's the market willing to pay for this service? What's a fair, reasonable rate if I'm going to provide this service to the client that they can pay me? And the more information you collect, the more confident you'll get in your numbers, and then you can take the emotions out of it and just simply give the rate, say here's what I charge, and let it be. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the top 10 financial mistakes that lawn care business owners make. I made all 10 of these. So number one is not knowing your numbers. Number two is underpricing your services. Number three is neglecting to track your time. So in the home services businesses, what you're really selling is time. How much time does it take you to go mow that yard or to spread that fertilizer if you're doing fertilization and weed control? And so if you're not tracking your time, you're really missing out. So when I started my business, I would actually write down on a yellow pad. That's where my notes for today's podcast are, by the way. They call that, I think, chicken scratch or whatever, my handwriting. But I would write down time in. Okay, we got to Mrs. Smith's property at 11:33 and we finished at 12:17. All right. And then just calculate how many minutes we're on the property, how many guys did we have there, and ultimately calculating the man hours that it took to service that property. So we'll talk more about that as the podcast rolls on here. But the biggest financial mistake that I see businesses making is they're not even tracking their time, which is just crazy because you need to be able to study how many man hours you're on each property, especially if you're doing maintenance. Mistake number four that I've made, trying not to make, but many make this mistake as well. That's mixing personal finances with business. So really, I think one of the ways to keep this separate is to actually have business checking accounts and savings accounts for the business. And let's say you're going to use Relay Banking. They're an online bank that's set up for Mike McAllowitz, where you can have multiple buckets and they don't have all the fees for minimum balances and all that. Let's say you use Relay. I'm just using hypotheticals here for your business banking. Well, then use something completely different for your personal. Maybe there's a local credit union in your town or city or village or wherever you live. What's that? They don't know what a village is. It was a joke. Your city, and keep, just like literally physically keep those in separate banks. So that will help with it. But when we go and we buy groceries, we should be using our personal credit union or bank. And then when we're doing the business expenses, we're using the business. Mistake number 5, top 10 financial mistakes that lawn care business owners make, is failing to save for taxes. Failing to save for taxes. So we have folks that listen to this podcast in different countries, and even here in the United States of America. I live down here in Florida. I don't know if you can see. It's beautiful out here, Florida. Sunny. Yep, real sunny. I'm going to go on a walk right after this. But we have no state income tax, but we still have federal tax. And depending on where you live, there's tax obligations. So throughout the year, as money is flowing into our business, as we're making money, we need to be setting aside money into a savings account. So when our tax bills come due, and for most people, it's January 15th, April 15th, June 15th, September 15th. Am I getting these right? And then January 15th again. So those 4 times of the year, the tax bills due. Well, if you save diligently throughout the year by setting aside a portion of the money that's coming in, then you can just pay those tax bills as they're due. Juancho MX says hi on YouTube. Thanks for watching over there on YouTube. How's the audio sounding? This is my first podcast in a new studio. I want to know how it sounds. Number 6, this financial mistake lawn care business owners make: overspending on equipment too soon. So when you start your business, you're in year 1, you don't have to go buy a brand new aerator. Like literally you can go to, well, I mean, Florida and Georgia are a little bit different. Thank you, Juancho MX, for the confirmation that the audio is working. But you can go to a store and rent an aerator your first year and still go out and make turn big profit. Aerating is when you punch little holes into the ground to get the airflow down to the root systems of the grass, which in warm season turf is typically done in April, May, in there. And then I know, and I don't know too well because I don't live where it's cool, but my friends who are in cool season, they do it in the fall. But guys will go out and go into debt to buy this big fancy aerator when your first year you could just go rent one for a week and do a ton of jobs and charge nice money for the aeration and make money that way. So and then the biggest mistake these guys make, and gals, is the trucks. They go out and they buy these brand new trucks and they post it on Instagram, and I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You don't need a brand new truck to run a lawn care business or landscaping business. I use one Ford F-150. I had that for 8 years, and it was fine. And one of my really picky customers commented one time about how nice my truck was, and I was thinking, it ain't that nice. But I took it to the car wash all the time, like obsessively. You can get a car wash membership for like $35, the unlimited. I mean, it might be different in your neck of the woods, but the unlimited plan. And I drive that thing through there, no joke. I don't want to say every day because some days I'm just too tired, but I go to the car wash all the time. It's free. I mean, well, it's not free, but it's unlimited. You pay your $35 a month and you just drive it through there. And the customer, as long as they see, oh, wow, your truck's in great condition, they don't care if it's a 2018, 19, 20. Doesn't need to be brand new. Can still get the job done. Talking about top 10 financial mistakes lawn care business owners are making. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify. We're in a new studio. It's nice here. It's very nice here. Biggest mistake, number 7, financial mistake that lawn care business owners make is relying on one big client. So was listening to the Dave Ramsey show last week, or it might have been his Entree Leadership show, actually. But anyway, I was heard his voice. I do a lot of walking and listening and learning. And this guy had a job where the customer paid him over $2 million. Was supposed to pay him over $2 million. And long story short, that company went out of business and he never got his $2 million. And Dave was like flabbergasted that he wasn't doing draws with this customer. And then he got, well, anyways, it was a whole fiasco. But the point was, and kind of, and if this fellow's listening, please, please forgive me if I don't have all the details perfect on this story here. I just listened to it once and I was like, wow. But the solution is to kind of go get 50 other customers that maybe aren't $2 million jobs, but are, more in the guy's wheelhouse rather than banking on one big client. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a big client when it's done correctly. So I'm not against big jobs. I like big clients, but what I'm trying to say is we shouldn't all rely on this one big client. We should just be serving, as many customers as we can with excellence. Hello to Rhett on YouTube. Appreciate you tuning in, sir. Thank you for watching. Let me know what city, what state, what country you guys are in. I'd appreciate it. I'm going to try to do some more of these live streams for the show as we move on in the future. Number 8, biggest financial mistakes lawn care business owners make is not paying yourself consistently. So what this looks like is somebody says, yeah, my business, we did 500,000 in revenue last year. And we profited $100,000. We're crushing it. 20% profit margin. We profited $100,000. All right. So let's just do some simple math. All right. Your top line revenue, Red Rocks Maintenance Ltd. What's up? Good to have you in the house over there on YouTube. Juan Show MX is in Detroit, Michigan. All right. So you got a business that makes 500,000 top line revenue for their mowing, their mulch installations, everything they did, it made 500,000. And then they spent 400,000 on gas, on their laborers, on everything it cost to run the business, right? And then they said, Paul, we made 100,000 profit. And I asked, well, how much did you pay yourself as the owner of the company? Well, we'll leave this fella anonymous. All right. He's a friend of mine. I'm not going to pick on him like that. Although I am picking on him. And I said, well, how much did you pay yourself out of the 100,000? He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, did you pay yourself? He's like, oh, no, we'll just pull money when we don't need it. My wife works, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, well, if you were to hire somebody to do everything you do in the business, I'm like, what do you do in the business? Well, he does all the quoting. So all of the jobs where he's going out to Mrs. Smith's house and saying, hey, here's what we charge you to do this cleanup. Here's what we charge you to mow. He's doing all of that. He's doing all the invoicing. Shout outs to Horizon 360 if you need a CRM to do invoicing. And he's doing some labor. So he's doing all this work. So I was like, if you were to go out and hire somebody to replace you, what would you have to pay him? And he's basically saying, well, no one can do it. I do everything. I was like, all right, well, hypothetically, if you paid somebody to do everything you're doing, how much you think you'd have to pay them? Man, probably like 60, 70,000. So I was like, well, that's what you should have been paying yourself, because your business really only profited 30,000. Let's say you paid whoever it is, which right now it's you who's doing all of this stuff, the quoting, the invoicing, some of the labor, all of that. But let's say it wasn't you, sir, my friend, but you had to hire somebody to do that. And you wanted them to show up every day and basically run your business. So you're paying them 70,000. So your business didn't really profit 100,000 because you weren't even calculating that you did $70,000 worth of work to calculate. It really profited 30,000. Let me know if that makes sense in the comments. I'm anxious to go out on my walk, so my thoroughness of explaining all the math, I'm not sure how clear I made that point, but here's what to avoid: not paying yourself consistently. So when I started paying myself $4,000 a month in 2020, it absolutely changed my business, because up to that point, I was willy-nilly pulling money out of my business when I needed to, right? I needed money, so I pull some money out. I needed money again for rent. I pulled some money out. I needed more money. I had to go to yada 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 yada. I just pulled money out whenever there was a need. And Joey Coberly, my awesome bookkeeper, said, "Why don't we just pay Paul, first of the month, like a set salary?" It's like, all right, how about $4,000? Okay, $4,000. So I pay myself $4,000, and the whole rest of the month, I'm like, oh man, how am I going to not run out of money by the next first of the month of the next month? Because I'm paid me 4,000, I still need to pay all my, my labors. I need to put gas, all this stuff. How am I going to have the money? What it forced me to get more pep in my step and go out and serve more customers better and make more money. Then eventually I stepped it up to paying myself 5,000 a month. And it just really helped me to do better in business when I started paying myself consistently, because I realized my business was on life support. I realized my business wasn't as healthy as I thought it was. I realized my business isn't as profitable as I thought it was. I realized my business isn't doing as good as I thought it was financially, numbers wise. So when I started paying myself first and consistently, it exposed how poor or poorly my business finances really were. But then I started making the adjustments when I realized it's kind of like a wake up call. Because up until that point, I was kind of thinking, oh, everything's getting paid, everything's getting by, yada yada yada. But I really wasn't like paying myself consistently. And $4,000 a month, that's only 48,000 a year. 5,000 a month, I think that's 60,000 a year. Red Rock maintenance says I need to pay myself with my employees. I just pull out when I need it. Yeah, that's what I used to do. And it's dangerous, danger zone. Because imagine if you paid somebody to do all the work you're doing in the business, you'd have to pay them consistently on time or they quit, right? If you didn't pay them the day their due date is, they say, see you later. I'll go work somewhere else. So it's a great habit. And it's the hardest thing, in my opinion, it was the hardest thing I had to do in business, because it basically forced me to go out there and make more money, because I realized I don't have enough money to pay me, pay Alberto, pay Cheque, pay all my other bills. It forced me to raise my prices, to get some courage, and to get some, I don't want to say ambition, but get after it. Go make more money. Because really the problem was my business wasn't making enough money. Hope that makes sense. Number 9, top 10 financial mistakes lawn care business owners make. I've made every single one of these 10. So this list, I could have said my 10 biggest mistakes. I don't know if you can see my raggedy handwriting there, but the way titles work on like YouTube and Facebook and podcasting, the title of top 10 financial mistakes lawn care businesses make and how to avoid them, that just sounds better. But honestly, these are mistakes I made. So if you're listening all the way to point number 9, you've already gotten the point that I've made all 8 of these mistakes we've talked about so far. But I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. Number 9 is avoiding budgets and financial planning. So one of the greatest things I did in my business was hire 4 different people to help me with my budgeting and finances. So 2 of them I talk about on my program a lot. My bookkeepers, Joey and Megan Coberly, they take all of my transactions in my business, they put them in all the proper categories and help me with all of that. The other person I hired that helps is Sheila. She's from South Carolina, and she's my tax preparer and tax planner and financial advisor. She helps me making sure that I'm setting aside money to pay my taxes and understanding what my tax bills are and all of that. And then the 4th person I've hired to help me, so it's the Coberlys, Sheila, and then the 4th person, this one's newer, is a lady named Layla. And Layla specializes in helping people with their personal finance. So Layla and we do a Zoom call once a month, and we literally analyze how my budget went for the previous month. So how much money did I spend on food out? How much money did I spend on groceries? How much money did I spend on gas? How much money did I spend on rent? How much money did I spend on gym, fitness, health, wellness, stuff like that? And then we have all these different categories, right? My car wash, stuff like that. And so we track how the previous month went, and then we prepare and plan and set the budget for the upcoming month. So I'm recording this podcast in real time in July. So we have a meeting scheduled for the end of the month. I was just looking at my calendar there, the end of the month. So I'll meet with her. We'll look at how July went, and then we'll look at August, what irregular expenses are in August, because there's never a month in your business or in your personal that's ever the same. Never. I think it's like impossible, because somebody's got a birthday, or there's Christmas, or there's a holiday, or you're traveling, or there's some irregular expense. So there's never two identical months. It's pretty much impossible. So you need to create a budget that's specific for each month. And so what that budget does is it helps me know, okay, here's how much money I can spend on this, and I have to say no to everything else this month. And it drives some people crazy, but that's what it is. I had somebody that wanted to hire me for something, and I was like, I can't do it this month. And they're like, oh, no, you can do it. I was like, no, I can't. I was like, I'll talk to my budget consultant, and at the end of this month, and maybe we'll get you on next month, you know? But anyway, I set budgets every month, and then I track what actually happened, both in the business and in my personal. Last but not least, and we'll do a quick recap here before we get to number 10. Top 10 financial mistakes lawn care business owners make and how to avoid them. And I made all 10 of these mistakes. Was number one was not knowing your numbers. So the way you fix that is just getting business checking accounts and savings accounts and tracking what's coming in, what's going out, and then also doing that for your personal. Number two is underpricing services. The way you overcome that, the way you my air conditioner, I'm in a new studio and there's new sound, so the air conditioner came on. I was like, what is that? Is it raining? And I looked outside and it's sunny. It ain't rain, it's my air conditioner making its nice little debut on the podcast, although you probably can't even hear it. But so the way you overcome underpricing services is you understand the market. So you understand what the big boys and gals, the big companies in your area, what they're charging and why, and then you get some confidence to charge, market rate. And when the more you understand your numbers, honestly, the more you have no choice but to go up and raise your prices. Number three is neglecting to track time. So you should track what time you get to, let's say you're mowing tomorrow. You should track what time you get to your customer's property, and then what time you finish the job, and how many employees you had on the job. So if it's just you, let's say the job took you 1 hour. You got there at 10 a.m., you got done at 11 a.m., and it was just you. So that would be called 1 man hour, because you were there for how long? 1 hour. And how many employees were there? 1. So it's 1 hour. Now, what happens if you would have had 2 people? You got there at 10, left at 11, but there's 2 people working. So you're only there for 1 hour, but you multiply it by 2 because there's 2 employees. So that's 2 man hours. Or let's say you got there at 10, you left at 10:30, and you had 2 employees. That'd be 1 man hour. So 30 minutes times 2 employees, 1 man hour. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments if that makes sense. So tracking time. Number 3 mistake was tracking time. So how do you avoid that? You track your time. Number 4 is mixing personal and business. How do you avoid that? You have your checking accounts and savings accounts for your business, for your taxes and your business. And then you have a separate account and a separate savings account for your personal. But I would like to keep it separate banks, actually. Keep them completely separate. Businesses over here, personal stuff's over here. They're separate. Number 5 is failing to save for taxes, a huge mistake. Oh, I made that mistake. It sucks. As you're making money, Set it aside for the future tax bills. Can I get an amen? Number 6 is people overspend on equipment and vehicles too soon. I don't even want to talk about it anymore because I'll get all fired up. Mistake number 7 is people rely on one big client, which can be a trap in the early days, especially. Once you get better at business, it can be a little easier to have that big client, but I would be careful in those early days of banking all on one big client. Number 8 is not paying yourself consistently. So if you own a small business, you should be paying yourself like you worked for the company. So what are you doing for your business? What's the market pay for labor who's doing what you're doing, and pay yourself that to get started with. Red Rocks. That was for you, my friend. And for everyone else who owns a small business. That's what we should be doing. Number 9, mistake that financial business owners make is avoiding budgeting and financial planning. So how do we fix that? We set a budget. It's really simple. I mean, we start with your personal. James Goosey, thanks for the shout outs on YouTube. Good to have you live with us. Let us know which state, country, village, town you're watching from. But budgeting is pretty simple. So we'll use personal. August is coming up the next month. So my budget, I'm going to write down what my rent is. I know that exact amount. I'm going to write down what my groceries are for the next month because I've been tracking my groceries all year. So I know what I've spent. I can literally look at a spreadsheet and I can tell you exactly what I've spent on groceries January versus February versus March, April, May, June. So I kind of know what my average grocery bill is. Knoxville, Tennessee in the house. Ontario, Canada in the house. Let's go. I'm down in Florida. Let's see if I can show you. Can you see Florida? A little sneak peek. A little sneak peek for James Goosey and Red Rock. You guys like Florida? Sunshine State. I guess I didn't even show you the sun because the buildings were blocking. It's sunny down here. It's hot. It was 97. I went golfing this morning. The real feel was 97 degrees. It was 92 when we teed off, and then it was 97. The guy I was playing with quit. He got so hot. I'm out of here. It's also beating him by 15. So he said it was the heat. I think it was my game. Well, anyway, I lost my point. Oh yeah, not paying yourself consistently. Was that my point? No, avoiding budgeting. So my budget, that was my point. With the budget, you can look at how much you spend on your rent, your groceries, your food out. If you have a gym membership, a car wash membership, all that stuff. That's how you fix budgeting, is just simply starting a budget. Your first month budgeting, it's not going to be perfect, but you'll get in the hang of it. So I've had a budget for January, and then at the end of January, I met with Layla and we tracked how the budget went. Then I set a budget for February. At the end of February, we tracked how the budget went. Then I did that for March, April, May, June, and then I'm currently in July. I literally have a spreadsheet, and every week I'm updating my finances of what I'm spending on all my expenses in my personal and on my business. So I know my numbers, and I don't like them, but I know the facts. I know the truth of where I stand. And when I say I don't like them, I want to be doing better financially. Like I want to have more money in my savings accounts. I want to have more money in a emergency fund for my personal. I want to have more money in an emergency fund for my business. So I'm not happy with like where my current standing is, but I know where I stand. I know how much I make, and I know how much I spend. Does that make sense? And so half the battle is just kind of knowing where you're at, because what that does then is it really motivates me to get out there and make more. Red Rocks on YouTube says, I've been sitting at the lake all day. The joys of living on a lake. Is that the same lake your mower went in? Red Rocks. I like lakes. We have a bay outside my window. There's a big lake. Well, it's really a bay. The Gulf of America comes into a bay. All right. Point number 10, financial mistakes that folks make. Then I'm going to go on my walkie walk here. I'm down to 204 pounds. So I got a little chubby. Red Rock says that was a different length. Mistake number 10 is ignoring marketing ROI. So you should measure your marketing. Let's say you spend money on door hangers and you're spending money on Google ads, you're spending money on Facebook ads. You should be measuring how much money is coming in from those marketing campaigns and know which one's best. So Red Rocks Maintenance asked this question. Bring it on screen here. What would you recommend for an emergency fund for business? Okay. Brandon Gray recommends 2 months of business expenses. Now, full disclosure, that's my goal, but I'm not there yet. So in my business expenses, I got a lot of expenses. So 2 months is it's a lot of money. But I honestly have set that as a goal personally. Pardon me, that's not the right word, personally. In my business, my goal by the end of this year, and you guys can keep me accountable, but my goal is to have 2 months of my business expenses saved as an emergency fund. So that's what Brandon Gray recommended at our Lawn Care Life Conference. He does a lot of financial analysis for a lot of successful businesses, and that's what he recommends. So let's say you spend $10,000 a month to run your business. A good business emergency fund to just have sitting in a high yield savings account in your business would be 2 months. That would be 20 grand if your business was 10,000 a month. Now, if your business is 15,000 a month in expenses, and that's 30,000 for 2 months, or if it's 5,000 times 2, be 10,000. So just calculating how much does it cost per month to run my business, multiplying by 2, that's a good goal for an emergency fund in your business. I'm not there yet. I have the goal, but I haven't accomplished the goal, but I'm working on it. All right. I'm working on it. Now that's separate from a personal emergency fund. So a personal emergency fund is going to be less more than likely because your household expenses, let's say it's $5,000 a month. Well, if you save for 3 months of household expenses at $5,000 a month, that'd be a $15,000 emergency fund for your personal. So Erica Crouppen in the house. Let's go. Pooping, scooping, crouping. Erica, my friend. When are we going to do a podcast? Let's see what Erica has to say here. I like the 2 months of business expenses saved. That's a really good goal. Yeah, that I've set that goal. Well, I heard Brandon Gray say that at our event in February, and I got real convicted. So I told my bookkeeper Joey, I was like, I want to accomplish this by the end of the year. By the end of the year, I want to have in my business 2 months of expenses saved, and it's just in an account. Like it's going to be in a separate account that's only for peace of mind, business, emergency. If there's ever an emergency, the money's there for the business. And then also to have one in my personal. Dave Ramsey would recommend 3 months to 6 months for personal. So yeah, those are some pretty good goals to have. And I'm working towards that, but I'm not there yet. All right, guys. So let me see if I can show you Florida here. Oh, these I'd have to move my angle. There's that's a hotel there, and that's a business there. Well, anyway, there's beautiful water over here, and there's a walk path right along the water, and it's sunny out, and it's the weekend. And what am I doing in here podcasting? I could be out on a walk. So that's what I'm going to go do. I appreciate you guys watching. Everyone, if you're coming to the Equip Expo this year, don't forget the early bird price tickets are on sale right now for $30, but you can get them all 50% off for $15 with the promo code Paul and get your Equip Expo tickets. So I hope to see everybody in Louisville this fall. See you in October. Red Rock says, let's go. Let's go. Crouppen, aren't you coming? Are you coming to the LCR Summit too? Naylor's event, which is on Monday and Tuesday, the LCR Summit. And then the Equip Expo is that. It's the week of October 20th through 24th. So it should be good. James Goosey says, thanks for the shout out. I'll be listening all week on the mower. Cool. Well, you'll be listening on the mower and then you'll hear your shout out because we're doing this live right now. And then the way it works is I send the audio file to Mr. Producer and he makes it sound all fancy schmancy with the intro and all the excellence in broadcasting he does. And then the podcast comes out on audio on Apple and Spotify. So you guys are getting a little sneak peek tuning in here. All right. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to go on a little walkie walk, try to get rid of my belly. That's another one of my goals. Well, I don't know if I should, but I want to get, I asked ChatGPT when I can get flat abs by, and ChatGPT told me, October 1st. They're like, if you walk twice a day, do all this stuff, your abs will be popping by October 1st. I always thought they was going to tell me like August 1st. So, but anyway, and who knows if ChatGPT is the best like personal trainer, but it told me to go walk in the morning, go walk in the evening, and living down here in Florida, it's really nice to walk, like spiritually and emotionally and mentally. It's just, I love walking, but it's also good for getting rid of my belly that flops around, trying to get flat abs. So that's what I'm going to go do next. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on this wonderful day. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you on the next podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.